Tuesday, January 17th at 7:06, and we'll call this meeting of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission to order. Could we have a roll call?
Andy Adams. Bill Brown.
Here.
Bruce Nicholson.
Here.
Sarah Dudek.
Here.
Cynthia Hoyle. I'm sorry.
You can pretend.
Yeah. I know you're
Start
listening.
talking.
Dan. Sapphire.
Here.
Susan Jones. Nancy Westcott.
Here.
Let's see, Yusuf Shaw. Sartek Prasad.
Here.
Audrey Ishii. And John Zeman. Here.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum. Are there any additions to the agenda or changes? Okay. Approval of minutes. We didn't get minutes done quite yet, so we'll have 2 sets next time. Any public input besides presentations? Unfinished business. I don't think we have any unfinished business. Reports of city officials and staff and reports of committees. Do you have anything, John?
Not in particular, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay.
I'll just say hi, I'm Nick Olson.
Yes.
I'm a planner with the city of Urbana. This is my first BPAC meeting. I'm taking Kat's place, so
Okay.
hello to anyone I haven't met already.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for being here.
I did want to mention that Andy and I attended the traffic commission meeting in January. So it's like just a week ago, wasn't it? Maybe 2.
Yep, a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Where they were discussing the potential change in potential ordinance to make parking and bike lanes some kind of offense, and there wasn't any argument against it. I think that the discussion was how to best implement it. The police chief wanted to make sure that all of his officers could write basically the equivalent of a parking ticket for it, because it would be more likely to be enforced rather than to write it up as a city ordinance violation and have to go to city court and all that. So there was some discussion about how best to implement it. They wanted me to send it back to the city attorney for a little while. So they're going to probably bring it back to the next traffic commission, or else if there's not a lot of changes, they'll just go ahead and take it to city council next. It does sound like that's moving along. Yeah, I didn't have any other report. Anybody else think of any questions? Okay. New business. Regional Planning Commission. David's here with Gabriella. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, you're next. So they're going to present what they've done so far in the bicycle-friendly community application. And I think they'll probably need a projector. How's it going, Joel?
It's going.
If the projector doesn't work, we'll just do an audio presentation.
Theater of the mind.
Open, yes. Gabby's getting her computer and we can use that.
We can skip to future topics if people have future topics they want to bring up. I think next month we'll have hopefully annual report. I'll try to get an annual report ready. And did you want? No, you were doing. Yeah, you're doing the walking road to school, right? Somebody else was doing the changes in what was it? The master plans or something? I forgot. Any other future topics people can think of?
Well, I don't know if this would be a future topic, but the university is going to update the campus bike plan. Should be ready for approval in June 2024. So very future. 18 months from now. So I'm starting the process right now. Have reached out to Department of Urban Planning, so we'll get some students to help out with that project. And there will be some public input and stakeholder meetings with that.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe an announcement, more like.
Just a question about, is the Student Sustainability Committee involved in this conversation?
They will be.
Okay.
They will be, but again, like, I do not believe that we are going to request funding for this project.
Okay.
But if there is any need, we will probably go for that.
I reached out to him, as Bill knows, a couple of weeks ago to see if we could get a conversation going about e-bike policy protection and support. And, you know, they're not back yet, so I'm hoping for a response to
So,
that.
Student Sustainability Committee is not going to answer that. They're mostly a funding agency who take care of the Green Fee Fund. It's going to be the TDM department, me and Stacy.
All right.
And other than that, like, there's our Transportation Advisory Committee, which meets every semester, where I can bring this topic up. About that particular topic, I have reached out to housing about e-bike safety, especially with the bike, like battery charging.
That's the crucial thing there. I mean,
I
students are-
have
yeah.
asked housing, and for now, like, there's no update on that. Once there is, we will definitely update you all. The major concern is the fire safety,
Of course, I mean, that's gonna be a real challenge.
so we'll see.
Coming up with some kind of alternative safe storage for those devices. All right, what, I was authorized at an earlier meeting to sort of see if I could help facilitate an informal
Mhm.
conversation between us and the university. Should you
Yeah.
and I get together for coffee
Sure.
at some point?
Sure,
I'll give you
yeah,
an
of
email
course,
next week, or?
sure,
Okay, all right. Out in the open with people watching.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure, should we go ahead and, can you get started without anything, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm Gabby. I'm a planner at RPC. It's Gabe, obviously. So we're just gonna go over the application, just an update for you guys. I'll try my best, just like reading it off here, so hopefully everyone can comprehend. But we are doing the application for the city of Urbana for the bicycle-friendly community. It reapplies every 4 years, so the last time it was done is 2018. I have like the history of it. The first bicycle master plan was approved in 2008, and then 2010, Urbana was the first downstate Illinois community to get a bronze level. 2014 was the first in Illinois to get a gold level. Then the master plan was updated in 2016. In 2018, Urbana was the only gold level bicycle friendly community in Illinois, and then we're reapplying to hopefully keep the gold level or maybe go above. So the schedule that we've been kind of following, we started this in November. We've since then met with city planning, public works, the police, human resources departments, mayor's office, MTDs, Urbana School District, U of I, Safe Routes to School. We've been communicating with all of them, and plus Bill on EPAC to answer the questions. And then obviously we're meeting with you today, and then we did meet with Public Works last week, I believe. The application is due February 15th, and then the awards are announced in May. And then just a little bit about the application. They do make it known that we're not just telling all of the strengths of the community, but also the weaknesses. And then because of COVID and like reapplying after the pandemic, they're asking us to answer questions like what we would have done before the pandemic, and then activities that have resumed since then. So the sections, not much has changed since the last one, except there's a new section called Equity and Accessibility instead of the Enforcement and Safety section. Some of the enforcement and safety questions are still like weaved throughout the application, but there's not just like a section for it anymore. And this application was a lot longer than previous years. I haven't worked on previous ones, but it was a lot longer and there was a lot of new questions added to each section. So keep that in mind. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, we had 4 questions. So maybe you want to list though the category areas. I know it's a little dry, but
Yeah,
just,
we can go.
yeah, start with that first.
So the sections of the application, the intro, which is basic information about the applicant, the community profile, which is about City of Urbana, like population, demographics, size. Then there's engineering, education, encouragement, evaluation and planning, equity and accessibility. And then there's a final overview with some extra questions. Supplementary materials, which are like photos and documents that we can upload, and then funding resources is the last one.
And I guess a note, well, you mentioned the deadline being February 15th, but what we wanted to do today is, reintroduce you to this topic, but what we're planning to do is share the draft application with you all, with John, who will share it with you tomorrow, and then you'll have until the end of January 31st, to be able to review everything, and that goes for anyone else too. We can share that with the other, definitely with Champaign County Bikes, and then the other agencies that have been contributing information, because Gabby and I have been sending out questions, this and that, and now you'll have a chance, if anyone has been contacted, you'll see everything, and if you haven't been contacted, you'll still see everything. It's quite the beast. But we were wanting to get the feedback by Tuesday, January 31st, and then that'll give us a little time at the beginning of February to compile everything before the final submission. Sorry, I guess you had that on that last slide. And so what Gabby will do too is there were a few questions in the final overview section that are kind of open-ended, and we have some input, but we wanted to present them to you for you to think about today. If you have comments or thoughts, I can record that, but also you can sleep on it and, send it back to us in that period here at the latter half of January.
All right, so I can read them. I'll read them multiple times if you need me to. So the first one is briefly describe the most positive outcome of your community's support for bicycling. And there is a 250 word limit. There's a word limit for all of these. Like, don't limit your responses, but just know that we'll have to cut some things down when we're crafting the responses. Should I read it again, or are we good?
Yeah,
Okay. Briefly describe the most positive outcome of your community's support for bicycling.
Do you want to respond to us now, or if you have?
I think we could have a discussion about it, yeah. Do you think they mean, since the last application, or just overall in general?
In a way, both, but I think we really have been focusing, I think what they want, what we've been doing is focusing since the last application, which was August 2018.
Okay. Yeah, that's the last 4 years.
I'd suggest something like accommodating a long-standing reality. When you have a university of who's counting right now, 40,000 students, who for decades, no matter what size the place has been, have relied on bicycle commuting to get to class and get to their residences and other activities. Your job really is in some ways accommodation and catch-up. The incentivizing people to bicycle is important, but assuring the safety and well-being of the people who are already doing it seems like it's even higher priority.
Yeah, I was gonna say reduced fatalities and injuries for bikes and peds, and then perhaps healthier community. I don't know if you would, that would be obesity rates or what, but overall healthier community.
I think if you're just looking at the last 4 years with COVID and everything, bicycling actually provided a way out for people to out in the community without anybody surrounding them, and just going for a ride for health reason, recreation. what have you, like. So, just in the past 4 years at least.
So is this specifically for Urbana or for Champaign-Urbana?
It is for Urbana. There are some activities that can't be disaggregated between the two cities, things like bike share numbers and some of the educational events, and we've noted that in the application, but yeah, as much as possible, it is for activities within the city of Urbana.
Yeah, because I thought what Audrey said at the last meeting was that actually fatalities and serious injuries have gone up.
Well, we've had 0 bicycle fatalities in the city of Urbana since the last application, so.
No, that
She was
was
talking
just-
about pedestrian mostly.
Oh, right, okay, sorry about that, yeah. Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I just, thinking probably one of the most positive outcomes I've seen is maybe a little reduction of the adversarial relationship between bicyclists and drivers. Just seems like the more we can support cycling in general as a method of transportation and commuting, drivers seem to be respecting it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think part of that's been like the infrastructure, like M4 is big, but, you know, bike lanes, I think, are good for educating like automobile drivers as well. But also, like Sartak mentioned, the just sheer increase in number of cyclists that go to like the night events and stuff, and they're just biking around, either because of the pandemic or because there's more bike share. Just having more bicyclists on the street, I think, also educates drivers and helps drive that better relationship.
And I think there was a proposal for bicycle safety gardens for school kids, at least. I don't know if that's
Like
I
a
know-
traffic garden.
traffic garden, yeah.
Proposal, yeah. Not
Yeah.
quite an outcome yet, but it was proposed.
Right, well, there was a demonstration,
Yeah.
so,
That means there's interest, which is good.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I was really encouraged by the ridership and VO was showing us, and that, I mean, I feel like we've got an infrastructure that's ready to, you know, meet the growing demands of that, and, you know, if we have a way to satisfy a transportation need for, say, a lower income sector of our population, I think that's a really positive outcome, and hopefully something we can take advantage of more and meet their needs more.
And to your point, we did not have bike share the last time this application was submitted, so it's obviously, bike share is something that has been happening all over the country and the world, but it's excellent that we've been able, the application's been revised to reflect bike share questions, but it's nice that we can have answers to that, positive
Yeah.
answers.
And I think even though they don't operate year-round, I think they're shut down now for the winter. Just the increase in ridership that you're talking about increases the numbers and their safeties in numbers. So I think that does increase the safety and the community acceptance too, just by having that increase in numbers.
I'll go to the next one. What are your community's greatest achievements in the last 12 months in the work to become bicycle friendly? So what are your community's greatest achievements in the last 12 months in the work to become more bicycle friendly?
Would Vision Zero count as that, like Vision Zero resolution? Would that count? I think so. Like having a Vision Zero resolution for the city.
Yeah, I still didn't hear the last part of the question. Community services in the last 12 months, is that what it was?
Community's greatest achievements in the last 12 months in the work to become more bicycle friendly.
Achievements.
I lost track of time, the improvement of the bike lanes along Green Street in front of the Union, basically from Lincoln over to Wright. Does that fit within this time frame, or is it
That was
farther back?
yeah,
Okay.
before 12 months ago.
All right.
You have any comments on that?
No, I mean, applying for 2 ITEP
Yeah.
grants is something, but it's not.
I think that's what we have in the current answer.
Yeah.
Shows initiative.
Yeah,
It's no small task to apply.
right.
We had the bike summit here too.
That's true.
Mhm.
Nice.
That's the first time it's been in person in 4 years,
Yeah.
for what that's worth.
That's positive.
And then you might have the numbers on, I'm sure it was record attendance for Light the Night and that kind of stuff too.
Yep.
Those type of events.
Yeah, you know, Sarthak has those numbers posted for like the night, and then Bike to Work Day was over
Right.
900
Yeah.
people. I forget the exact number, but it was just over 900, which broke the record again.
Continuing tradition of excellent t-shirt design.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's new crosswalks on Main, on Lincoln.
Small but mighty. It's nice, yep, yep.
Yeah, might have to think on that one.
Do you have any pictures of those crosswalks on that subject?
I took some about a week ago.
Perfect. We would
Nice.
love to have them.
I don't remember his name, but he works at Urbana Parks, and he got a few people from different organizations around the community to talk about the unified approach to how bicycles interact with parks. And like setting the VO speed limits on shared use trails, and just so that Urbana Park District and Champaign Park District would use the same approach on bicycle enforcement.
Was it our director, Tim Bartlett?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Were there any, I mean, like walk on all the school day or
Yeah,
kid-oriented events?
yeah, absolutely.
Bike
Anything.
rodeo was hosted this past year.
Yeah, we had another earn a bike.
There were some kid bike donations. I remember with the bike project they were doing that earlier this, like in fall semester
Yeah,
or summer.
we saw that there was an event in December,
Oh,
a bike giveaway, if that's what you're
Yeah.
referring to,
Yeah.
organized by the bike project in
Mhm.
Campus Bike Center.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, again, other proposals, I guess, were the equity proposals. I don't know if it's too early to
Yeah.
put that in. Is that too early?
We approved some things.
We've got in motion, you know, most of them are sidewalks. There is that one that's like the multi-use path, from Lincoln going over to Church.
Church Street extended.
Yeah, Church Street extended. So not a whole lot of dedicated bike infrastructure necessarily
Sure.
on that one, but.
Had the public input and all the effort on the Florida Avenue side path. It definitely has moved that along, I think, even though we don't have funding for it yet, so, I don't know if it's too soon to mention that, but we went through the effort of getting all the input and designs and everything.
And there's an equity component to that. You had an SS4A grant for Lincoln with the,
Yeah, I think that would be worth mentioning, that application. Definitely the bike accommodations for that stretch of Lincoln, one way or the other, is what we'd be aiming for, so. Yeah, definitely, it's a good point.
Anything else before I go on? Okay, the next one is what could be done differently in order to make bicycling safer, more enjoyable, and more convenient in your community?
What was the last part?
More convenient, yeah.
Is this the question Bill sent out via email?
Possibly G5.
Is this the question you sent out via email?
I think it is, yeah. And I think I sent in a couple of paragraphs, and mostly about safety and reducing speed limit, I think we
Yeah.
mentioned. Especially the whole, like all the neighborhood streets in Urbana can be reduced to 25 or 20, 25. Right here, 15. And it's relatively easy for smaller towns to do that. But for, little bigger towns, you have to put up a lot of signs unless there's a state law passage. So I think mentioning that at some point is probably good because the league can actually influence state legislation. So, if the state law allows it, reduces it or allows it differently, so we don't have to put up signs in every block, then that would help us lower it ourselves. And what else? More side paths, I think people mentioned, more connections.
Yeah, if there's nothing to add now, you can just think about if there's anything to add later. But I did get your response for that one. The next one and last one, what are the greatest challenges or barriers your community faces in taking action towards the effort described in the previous question?
Yeah, that was the second part of that same question.
Money and weather, right? Sometimes it conjoins. You probably know Madison, Wisconsin has built a solar heated bikeway along, I think it's along University Avenue, going west. They've got big solar panels, which apparently put out enough heat to actually melt the ice off the bikeway. And not all the time, but in icy, mildly icy weather. That takes money as well as.
Some of ours on campus are built over the steam tunnels, that works.
Yeah, that's true.
Steam tunnels, everywhere.
Yeah, what other barriers or challenges?
Behavioral challenges.
Behavioral challenges?
You thinking of
Yes.
motorists or cyclists or both? Yeah.
Yeah, that goes along with buy-in too,
Mhm.
like community buy-in and like just the structure at the city, how we've always done things, getting over some of those barriers.
Secure outdoor storage and lockup is a challenge practically everywhere. Increasingly so as e-bikes come on, and they can't be taken indoors because of safety reasons, and you have to be locked securely outside. So it's there when you come back out. That's, but we're not behind on this. I mean, if you've seen, imagine some of you have the bicycle storage facility at the Amsterdam train station. Have you ever seen that?
I think so.
Absolutely gigantic. And if you forget where you locked up your black 40-year-old 3-speed, you are out of luck. There is no way you're gonna find that. It's just, it's just because it's expanded. It's multi-story, wall-to-wall chaos. And that's a country which adopted bicycles vigorously right after the war and has put probably more effort and imagination than any small country has into maintaining that, but even they've got a mess. So it's, all I'm saying, it's part of the issue here, part of the problem.
We might not be unique in it too, but I think the coordination efforts, because we're two different cities and the university, and I think with the VO contracts, like, do they have an agreement with Champaign and then one with Urbana, and then a different status quo with the university?
Yeah,
We have a,
it started out as one and then
Yes.
it's broken to 3 now.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And getting the 3 entities to work together is something that we're trying to work on.
So even right now, like technically the IGA is still there because it hasn't been dissolved yet. But VO has a contract with university, and they have a contract with the cities, I'm assuming.
I don't.
Really, that's one example. I mean, bikes in parks is another. You need like 15 people from different organizations on one conference call to start coordinating things.
Mhm.
So of the other questions, I know there was one in particular that you sent that I felt we weren't really doing enough in. I got some other ideas of things we could be doing, which is good. That's part of the reason that you go through this whole process is to figure out what you could be doing better. Has anything like that popped up to you guys where you kind of drew a blank on, ooh, we aren't really doing much there?
There are some questions I know where the answer is no, there's, none of the choices, but off the top of my head, I cannot.
Yeah. Well, when you send it out, we'll probably
Yeah.
get a better idea,
Yeah. The PDF will have the responses that are filled in, but we've been trying to keep up with the Word doc that the league sends that shows you all the choices. And so, because I feel like that's important to know what choices are presented to you, so you can be aware, like you said, the point of this exercise is to know what you are and aren't doing and what possibilities are out there. And it also helps the league to know, if there's activities happening in Urbana that they're not aware of anywhere else, or they're not aware of at all, then they can include that in their website materials, future BFC applications, et cetera.
I think last time we met, Charlie Smythe mentioned that share rows would no longer be counted towards infrastructure investments in this application process. Does that affect this application, or?
I think it does. I know there's a spreadsheet of all of the, because we maintain all the existing trail on-street and off-street facilities, we know that. They wanted information based on speed limit of the road, and then it does break down like the protection of the bike facility, if it's fully protected or if it's just a standard bike lane. And I want to say that is right, that the Sharrows were not counted as a bike facility. If you remember, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think I remember seeing them, but
yeah.
I'm not sure.
I feel like it's reflected in the spreadsheet, but I don't think it's reflected in the
Yeah.
total.
It was down by itself.
Right, exactly.
I think maybe another challenge you might mention is just the turnover of our population, with the students coming and going so much. You have to re-educate people every year. Do they call that mobility?
I think that's a positive way of saying it, yeah.
Don't use mobility, that has too many meanings in this application. Okay, well, thanks. We'll look forward to seeing what you put together. I know it's a lot of work. And I know, I saw some of the stuff that Bridget sent, and there's a lot of stuff to go through and figure out how to work it into the application, so good luck with all that.
Thank you very much. We'll take that look.
And I did want to just offer too, I know we had discussions last month about questions that people had for RPC. I don't know if anybody had any other topics they wanted to ask Gabe and Gabby about. Got a little bit of their time in. But I think topics that came up were like Vision Zero, the SS4A application, things like that.
Yeah, I'm still not clear exactly on what's going on with the Vision Zero, like what we should be doing, because we passed the Vision Zero resolution and we were starting to think about putting together a task force to come up with a plan. But it sounds like that's kind of being replaced with this application, or you guys are doing more of that? We just need some direction on, so we don't duplicate efforts and so that we can work as a group. And media, we're one media market basically, so it would be hard for Urbana to do a Vision Zero without some of our message getting over into Champaign. So.
Right. Yeah, SS4A kind of covers some of that. I can't speak about everything, but there are infrastructure projects that John will be able to speak about what was included in that application. And then if we get that funding, then there would be funding to do to work on a Vision Zero plan, I believe.
Okay.
We don't have any engineers right now to be able to work on that at this time, so we're just waiting to find out about the SS4A award, if that gets awarded or not.
Okay.
Because what happened with this application is now the county itself has a Vision Zero resolution, right? That was one thing that changed, I remember. We've had a resolution for a little while. And that's what I recall.
That's, yeah, I'm not directly involved in that particular work, so I don't want to speak out of line, but yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, so we're not behind, like, no action's been taken yet. It's
Okay.
potential.
And I think Audrey had some questions about some of the traffic crash and fatality statistics. And it seems like the ones on the RPC site cover the whole metropolitan area, right? The whole
MPA, Metropolitan.
So that's
Planning.
Champaign, Urbana, Savoy, and Mahana? They got to Mahana?
Yeah, the MPA includes Tolono and Bonneville too.
But not St. John.
Right.
Okay. That's kind of what I remembered. Those statistics would they also include, like, if there were crashes on I-74 between Champaign and Mahana?
They should.
So anything within those boundaries, no matter what street it's on, okay.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think Audrey was trying to reconcile what she saw in just the Urbana data and like RPC's data, which I think it was probably a lot of rural stuff and interstate stuff that was
Yeah.
kind of coming into it. Oh, with the long-range transportation plan, 2050, that was another one that came up. And I don't know if you guys can speak to kind of what's coming up with that or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a similar process to the previous LRTP, which was completed in 2019. I mean, we'll have public outreach and developing goals. We have existing conditions as the first step. But we don't have a steering committee developed yet. We'd like to invite someone we had someone from Champaign County Bikes the last time, so we'd like to include that again. But that hasn't begun. There will be, we have to follow federal requirements to get the plan done. And it's really, it's developing a vision for a 25-year time frame horizon, so that'll be 2050. And then if there are any short-term projects that go into that, it's just what is programmed within the cities, and it's hopefully to achieve the long-term vision.
Yeah, we plan to have Lily Wilcock, one of our planners, be on the steering committee.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Sorry again about the presentation.
It's all right.
If you guys want to see the Amsterdam bike lane, it's right here. It's worth a look. You bring it up. It's too big for you to get on one slide. I'm sorry.
I think I'm familiar with the concept, maybe not just the
Oh, it's
specific
absolutely.
Okay, so Thomas is next. He did send out the.
Bring it up, because it's just.
His presentation, and it's posted on our website, so if you have your phones and want to follow along his presentation, you could do that. If I can find it.
So where is it located?
It's on our meeting website for the meeting January 17th.
Okay,
Did you find the VPAC page?
no, I wouldn't have.
Find the VPAC page and it's listed down there in future
Okay.
meetings.
Yes,
Okay.
I just searched Urbana BPAC, got to it fairly quickly.
Okay.
And then presentation, walk and roll display thing.
And then I'll be sure to get a copy of RPC's presentation and also share it with the group to see what we all missed out on. Apologies, Thomas.
Yeah, okay. Wow. Well, everybody, good evening. My name is Thomas Valencia, and I'm the intern for the Safe Routes to School project at MTD. This is probably the third or fourth time I've presented in front of this body, so it's great to be back. I'll be giving you all a short presentation on our recent Walk and Roll to School Day event that occurred last October, and I'll be delivering the results of the data collection that we also conducted. So if you are seeing the presentation, I have like a quick overview of what I'll be talking about. So first, I'll be talking about what Walk and Roll School Day is in particular. So if you are looking at the presentation, I'll just highlight some pictures of several of our events that we had. And then I'll also be showing the data collection resources that we used. Again, if you're looking at the presentation, it would be a lot more helpful to understand what I'm saying. So presenting a map, questionnaire, and survey. I'll be delivering what the survey results came up with. And then I'll be concluding with some proposed recommendations that we as Safe Routes to School are proposing to the city of Urbana to pursue as a result of the survey results that we collected. So first off, Walk and Roll to School Day is an event that is celebrated internationally and aims to encourage and celebrate walking and biking to school for children as a way to make healthier choices for themselves and to reduce congestion and all the other things that are aligned with making transportation more sustainable. Our community event took place on Wednesday, October 12th, in partnership with the Urbana School District. Sadly, this year we did not have any events in Champaign, so Urbana was the sole city that had any events. All 6 elementary schools in the district participated in the event, and most events were participated by student athletes from the U of I, volunteers from Safe Routes to School, as well as public officials. And then our flagship event was at King Elementary, where Mayor Diane Marlin signed a proclamation declaring Walk and Roll School Day in the city of Urbana. And then, if you are looking at the presentation, there are some pictures from the Dr. Williams event in which Gabe at RPC served as our Safe Routes to School volunteer. Leo Elementary School is where I served as a volunteer. King Elementary School was, of course, our flagship event. Lily Wilcock at the planning department served as our volunteer, and that's where Mayor Marlin signed her proclamation. And there were also some police officers and other volunteers there as well. And then another event that we had, if you're looking at the presentation, was Yankee Ridge. Our chair, Cynthia Hoyle, was the volunteer for the event there. And then now I want to talk about some of the data collection resources that we utilized. So first, if you're looking at the presentation, we had some safe route walking maps that we gave each school. These maps are produced by RPC, and they highlight like everything from traffic signals to push buttons to bike infrastructure, as well as the location of crossing guards. We encourage students and parents to write on the map anything they think is in need of attention. And it also is just a general resource for parents to utilize for those who are just kind of worried or concerned about sending their kids to school. So unfortunately, nobody used the map to indicate anything, but it's there for those who want to. And then a second resource that we utilize is a walkability checklist that we distribute to all schools. We have parents fill these out to indicate any walkability issues they may see in their community and to rate their neighborhood's overall walkability. And these checklists are borrowed from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And then luckily this resource was actually utilized. However, it was only utilized by Yankee Ridge, and we only got 3 surveys. Each survey had a high scoring regarding their overall walkability in the neighborhood. Some key concerns that these 3 surveys from Yankee Ridge pointed out was that there are parked cars blocking the view of traffic at the intersection of Mumford and Cottage Grove, and that there are no sidewalks, paths, shoulders, or any street lighting near the Liberty Commons residential area. So those were the 2 main things that we were able to.
Liberty Commons that's the mobile home park across from.
Yes. Yeah, that was
outside.
the interesting thing. They commented about Liberty Commons, but the survey was from Yankee Ridge.
I'm not sure how their attendance areas work.
That was kind of confusing for me, but I know Yankee Ridge is like, if I'm not mistaken, has like a French language program.
Yes.
So that may be why there's a student from that area, but that's something that they mentioned. So, the attendance thing might seem a little weird. The main point here is that Liberty Commons is not a really walkable area. So this only makes sense if you are looking at the presentation, but I had some statistics that we gathered from online parent surveys that we conducted. These online parent surveys, we sent out a link to all the schools in Urbana from a survey in the National Safe Routes to School Data Center. We gave them around like a month or so to complete it. And unfortunately, only one school provided us with any data, and that was Leal Elementary. So for those who look to the presentation, this only is for Leal. It does not reflective of the entire community, but it's still data, and it's nice to have it. So for example, one factor that we decided to calculate was the count of how each child gets to school. And Leal, living up to its reputation as being any walkable neighborhood, has a high, walking rates as well as a biking rate for those who travel to school. For the next statistic we calculated was the count of the amount of distance someone travels to and from school, and obviously the average being half a mile up to a mile. So that's, in my opinion, I feel like that's really good. Having that rate's really high. I guess it shows that parents are confident in sending their kids to walk that long. As someone who is from the Chicago suburbs, a mile seems like a lot. So I think that's something to be proud of. And then this last statistic that we calculated was the travel time to and from school, and 5 to 10 minutes proved to be the average here. That seems, pretty standard. 5 to 10 minutes is not that bad. I think 11 to 20 minutes, for those who are looking at the graph, would probably be somebody who is living in the edges of the Leal school boundary. But other than that, 5 to 10 minutes, that seems to be pretty standard. I know in some other transportation-related policies, for example, trying to get to a metro stop or a bus stop, 5 to 10 minutes is considered average, an average estimate of how someone would be comfortable walking. So, and then we also had some comments that we received on our online parent surveys. This actually had more comments than I thought we would have, and it's way more than the Yankee Ridge Walkability Checklist had. And there's some things I really would like to point out here. So if you are looking at the presentation, the first comment we have is saying, from one of our participants, saying that they have a younger child and it's been very difficult for them to push a stroller along the sidewalk on Oregon Street, and that they don't feel safe biking on the street with their kids on the route to school. So that's one of the first comments we received. The second comment talks about how living half a mile away from the school has been really great, and it allows us to walk or bike. It's faster than getting in and out of the car. So there's something positive. But then the third comment discusses speeding. So they state that they regularly see cars speeding or rolling through stop signs, which makes it unsafe to send their child unattended. And they also go on to say that we also need to drop our child off before their care on their way to work. So we need their cars with them. And then they also mentioned that after-school pickup is not facilitated by school staff, which makes them concerned that their child wouldn't know when to cross the street when there's so many cars present. And then another positive comment, one person said that their third grader and kindergartner walk together by themselves. And then this final comment, this was actually translated from Spanish. They mentioned how they think it would be beneficial to establish routes where it is not necessary to traverse on main roads. And it would be also helpful to create meeting points for children who walk or bike to school, such as creating a meeting point at Carl Park in their comment as a way to avoid high school traffic. So those were all the comments that were received. Again, I want to point out that all of this was from Leal only, so this is not reflective of the entire school district or the community. And then taking together that the comments and the data that we received, we at Safe Routes proposed several recommendations to address some of the concerns that were mentioned. So first, we are recommending that infrastructure within half a mile radius of schools be addressed and fixed. This can be achieved through prioritizing sidewalks, developing traffic calming on streets, and constructing traffic circles at identified intersections. Another recommendation we have is addressing speeding problems that have a continuing pattern. For those who are looking at the presentation, Birch in Illinois seems to be an intersection of concern. A comment from October 2019 states that, quote, "There are many children now crossing in front of speeding traffic at Birch in Illinois to get to Leal." A quote from 2021 says that Illinois Street does not have a stop sign at the intersection with Birch, and that drivers drive way too fast down the street to make me feel comfortable. And then recently in November 2022, someone mentioned that we regularly see cars speeding or rolling through stop signs, which makes it unsafe to send our child unattended. So Birch in Illinois seems to be a hotspot that I would highly recommend the city take a look at. And then the final recommendation that we have is that we recommend that the city of Urbana and the Urbana School District should seek funding for a community safe routes to school plan. And we would point to the Village of Rantoul and their school district, who teamed up with RPC recently to develop safe routes to school plans for each of their elementary schools in 2020. So that's something that we recommend that the city work with the school district in achieving. And that is all I have for you all. I'm
Thanks.
happy to take any questions.
Yep. Any questions for Thomas?
Was the participation you got this year sort of what you see most years, or was it less or more?
I've only been in this position for 2 years, so I actually was at the 2021 Walk and Roll School Day event. I want to say it decreased across both communities, mainly because Champaign did not participate. As far as Urbana itself, I want to say that it increased based on what I've seen, like just anecdotally. But I think looking at a bigger picture, it's kind of decreased in my opinion. As I've been, working the website and looking at pictures from the past, like 2016, 2017, 2018, those events, when I see pictures and reports, they had a lot more volunteers, they had a lot more school events. Champaign was more participatory. Just basically anything pre-pandemic that I've seen, it was a lot. So I feel like post-pandemic, or whatever you call this time right now, the participation isn't as it was before. So I guess, to answer your question, it's been decreasing.
For the parents' online surveys, how was that publicized or disseminated?
So we utilize a survey that is created by the National Safe Routes to Schools data collection system. That's funded, if I'm not mistaken, by the Federal Highway Administration and or the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. One thing I did not put in this presentation, but I think it's worth mentioning, is that this past March of 2022, they stopped funding that data collection system. And it wasn't until this past fall where they had like a semi, stopgap kind of funding system. So we were able to restart sending out those surveys. So for a while now, we were concerned that we wouldn't be able to send out these surveys. And to talk about them more specifically, these surveys, we create links in the National Safe Routes to School Data Collection System, and we send them out to each school. And they ask a variety of questions beyond what I just said, count to school, ethnicity, age, grade, distance, travel mode. It's like a really comprehensive survey that parents go through. Unfortunately, only of the schools that we sent them to, which was all the Urbana elementary schools, only one responded, and only a few questions were answered. So we only got a little bit of data. And if I can remember from seeing past surveys from like pre-pandemic, these surveys were utilized a lot, and I'm pretty sure they were part of the application for Safe Routes to School grants from the Illinois Department of Transportation, because it's data that we would present to them. So, yeah, that's.
Bill?
Yep, hi Cynthia.
Hi, just quickly, the surveys he's referring to from the National Center for Safe Routes to School, and they are required. You do have to do the data collection via Safe Routes to School grant. The data has to be turned into IDOT, but it goes to the National Center also. The parent surveys that we send out, the reason we don't have data from the other schools is I don't think that the survey link got sent out to the parents. And so we've struggled to find a way to ensure that go to the parents, because we don't get a single survey from a school. It usually means that the parents never saw it. So it's difficult because the principals and the other people we communicate with are so busy that these things get lost. And so that makes it challenging for us. Leal sent it out. We got a lot of participation. A lot of the participation was a result of the school district's discussion about changing the Spanish program, which has nothing to do with our work, but they were motivated to engage with the survey as a platform for giving input on that issue. The last time we had a really huge response from Leal was when the city quit paying for their crossing guards. And we did the walking school bus program there, and the school district was paying to do that. We have not reestablished that program, although Dr. Williams did contact MTD, and Evan went and met with them. They would like to do a walking school bus program for their children again, but it does take a lot of work from a coordinator. They've always hired a student to do it in the past, and it'd be great to do that again. But those are all things that the city and the school districts and MTD could collaborate on if there were staff time available to engage with that. We do have participation from the city of Urbana with staff coming to our steering committee meetings. Lily has attended pretty regularly. Recently, we haven't had anybody from Champaign, and we have no one from their school district, which has made it really, really hard for us to engage with them. And I know MTD has struggled too, because they have to do a training with all of the kids leaving 5th grade going to the middle school on how to use the MTD buses. And staff has had to resort to working with each school principal individually to arrange that, because there hasn't been the staff in place to do that. So those are challenges that are not on your plate. But there are things that the city could be doing in collaboration with the school district on some of the issues. But Thomas did a great job did a lot of the detail work for the event and all of the detail work for the data collection and analysis. So. But he's right, pre-pandemic things were different. We're still sort of rebuilding because things were just crazy. And last year we didn't push very hard. It was still a hybrid system in the fall. And so things were still weird. And so Jennifer Ivory Tatum is a huge supporter of the program. She was our first principal at King to really engage and understand the value of the programming. So she's a huge supporter, so we don't lack her support in the administration there. I think we just lack attention and time.
Principals, and, I don't know, I'm sure they have a lot of surveys and stuff they're doing, but.
Yeah, that's, there's a lot going on.
Like, contacting PTAs, and some of the schools have PTAs.
Trying to get the contact information for the PTAs is a whole nother thing. I think in many cases we need to go to the school website, although most of them now just have Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out the name. Google until you figure out the name and find them. It's simple little things that should be easy to do that are difficult. This is welcome to our world of trying to engage with the schools who are overwhelmed by all the things they're being asked to do. So, yeah, but anything BPAC would like to do to engage with and encourage, several of you have participated in some of our events. We'd love to have all of your support and help with the program.
Yeah, I went to a couple when I was on city council. I went to one at Wiley and one at Thomas Paine. They were both well attended. I think a lot of it depends on weather. How was the weather this year?
The weather, it was interesting. It was forecasted to like thunderstorm and everything, but the time frame for our event, which was like around 7:30 to 9, it was completely sunny. But once it was 9 a.m., around the time our events ended, it started
At
pouring.
8:15 it started raining because I was biking to the summit and I got a little wet.
It was sunny for the most part, so weather for the majority of the event was not a problem.
There was a little window.
They might have changed their plans though. If parents had plans to let the kids ride and the weather looked like it was gonna be bad, they'd say, oh no, we're just gonna drive.
Yeah, the kids, most of the schools have the kids on the school buses drop somewhere to walk. And so, and then we have the student athletes, that's really a lot of fun. The kids enjoy that, and so do the student athletes. In fact, they enjoyed it so much last year, we started getting emails from them in August asking who was doing what, and we don't know till the schools tell us, and so we couldn't tell them anything. They were very excited about doing it again, because the kids really are so excited to meet them.
Okay, great. Any other questions, comments?
Just a comment, one of the recommendations was to prioritize infrastructure and half-mile around schools, and the service agreement that MTD has with 116 is to provide transportation for students who live 1.5 miles away from the school. And I think that's the same criteria in the agreement that First Student has, the yellow buses with 116. And so I think pedestrian infrastructure within that half mile is really good, but also bike infrastructure is really important, because otherwise the kids are just going to ride the car with their parents. It's not an option really for those kids who live within that 1.5 mile buffer.
And sometimes at that age, bike and pedestrian infrastructure is the same thing.
Yeah.
So sidewalks. We've made progress. I've noticed a lot of improvements on the sidewalks. These little black patch strips of even leveling out the sidewalk with asphalt and stuff. It doesn't look great, but it works.
That's, Bill, I'm gonna pass that along as first positive comment I got.
Well,
Thanks.
I've seen a lot of them, so I mean, somebody's doing a lot, and it's better than just hitting bumps.
Thomas, are you aware of any grant opportunities out there or upcoming for Safe Route to Schools?
So, recently, we included some line items that we wanted for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that RPC recently did. We included funding for all of our programs that we run. We included an ask for funding to construct the traffic gardens, which was mentioned earlier, because that's all it is right now. It's a proposal. We initially proposed it at Orchard Downs for the university housing, but they have not been helpful with that. And we've also proposed another site with the Urbana Park District. I don't know the details too much about that, but the point being, that's only a proposal right now. So in that grant application, we asked for some assistance with that. And then also we, if I remember correctly, we asked for money to begin the discussion to have an actual Vision Zero plan, because when Cynthia and I researched this grant just on our own, one of the criteria to have an implementation grant that we saw was you needed a Vision Zero plan. And in light of that, I think RPC had their urban safety plan. I don't know what the name was, but it wasn't a dedicated Vision Zero plan. It was like an urban safety plan. So we also asked that we have funding to begin discussions on a Vision Zero, framework. And I think Cynthia's probably mentioned this before when she was sitting on this commission, that the 2021 IDOT Safe Routes to School grant cycle, they did not have any funding for non-infrastructure projects. So since the end of 2021, if I remember, we don't really have any money. So that's Safe Streets and Roads for All, which is a federal grant from the federal government. That's been the only grant opportunity that we've been able to pursue so far. I know we've also been looking at a donation from the Carl Foundation. We haven't gotten work started on that yet, but other than those two things, we haven't been able to find anything that we can apply for.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, thanks a lot, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If we hear of any grant opportunities, we'll let you know. Okay, and then Bruce, as a presentation.
No, I'm gonna ask we defer it if we don't have a,
Okay.
like, I've got about 15 slides I think are
All right.
really useful to understanding the suggestion I'm trying to make, and so I think we can hold off till we get back to an operational system. Is that okay with you?
Yep, so we can put that on. And then, Dan, you did volunteer to do something, didn't you?
I gave a volunteer to help with the Snow Angels program. The Snow Angels program is
Snow
clearing
Angels,
the
okay.
sidewalks. So one of our planning interns came up with a map on where to place those signs that we were talking about a little bit last time, and focused around schools, which kind of dovetailed a little bit with Safe Routes to School. But I guess the only big update on that is that last year we waited for students, university students, to come back to town before we started advertising volunteer opportunities for the Snow Angels program, which is a program that Cynthia organized where people can sign up to get like a block or two of sidewalk and be responsible for shoveling that within 48 hours of snowfall. And the program can provide shovels, hats, waterproof gloves. And so we have a Google survey or Google form updated that we can send out. We just haven't really pushed it out yet. And yeah, I don't think we'll like do the Facebook promoting or whatever the paid option is, but I can send that out to you all too. If anyone would like to pick a sidewalk, the credit is yours, you know, adopt a sidewalk.
No, it's been a pretty snow-free year so far, but it looked like in the 10-day forecast, maybe toward the end of the 10 days, we might be getting some snow.
Yeah, and I think February is always the rough one too. There's always at least a weekend or two or a few days or two instances of big snow.
Okay, cool.
I'll start recruiting and I'll spam your inboxes.
Okay, any other announcements?
Our, like the university's Bike Friendly University application is also due this year, so I'm currently working with a master's in urban planning student to fill out the BFA application. We are hoping we'll get to gold this year.
Currently sober, right?
Yes. And another thing, like we received funding for improvement on curb cut along Matthews, at the intersection of Matthews and Main Street. That's a side, like shared use path that cut across Beckman Quad, connecting White Street and Main Street. So right on Main and Matthews, you actually have to take a 90-degree turn. So we are, tomorrow I'm meeting with City of Urbana officials at the site to figure out a plan, and most likely this will be done this summer.
Yay.
So we're probably just going to have one giant curb at that location.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And that was this is a student sustainability committee funded project, by the way.
Cool.
Nice.
Who applied for that? Good job.
I ask for money, like that's the only place I can ask for money.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time.
Okay, any other announcements? Jeff, you got here a little late. Did you want to do any public input? We'll give you 4 minutes if you want. Going once, going twice. Okay, all right. Okay, well, sorry we didn't have the projector working. I think that's it. All we have for today now. So, thanks everyone. This meeting's adjourned.